It's December 25th, and the strange side of history awaits. Today, we have a night of peace in the trenches, a crime that still haunts America, and humanity's eyes opening on the universe. Let's begin. On December 25th, 1914, the guns along the Western Front went silent. Just months into the Great War, thousands of soldiers sat shivering in the muddy trenches, separated from their enemy by only a few dozen yards of frozen, corpse-filled ground. Death had become routine, and the smell of decay hung in the air. Then as night fell on Christmas, something impossible happened. Voices drifted across no man's land, carols. At first, the men thought it was a trap, but no shots followed. Instead, candles appeared on the trench walls. Germans called out greetings in broken English, and British troops answered back, stunned. Slowly, men climbed out of the trenches and stepped into a place where no one was supposed to survive. They shook hands over the dead, exchanged cigarettes, food, and buttons from their uniforms. Together, they buried the bodies that had been rotting between the lines for weeks. In some places, a football was kicked across the frozen earth. Boots slipped where blood had soaked in the soil. For a few hours, the war stopped remembering who it was supposed to be, but by morning, officers ordered the guns loaded again. The truce was erased from the reports and dismissed as weakness, and never allowed to happen again. But for one Christmas, in the darkest war the world had ever known, humanity refused to disappear. For one night, the men remembered they were human. Then, war remembered what it was. By sunrise, the same hands that shook in peace were ordered to pull triggers again. On December 25th, 1996, while Christmas lights glowed outside the quiet home in Boulder, Colorado, something already had gone terribly wrong. In the early hours of the holiday, 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey vanished from her bedroom without a sound. Downstairs, a handwritten ransom note waited, unusually long, demanding a very specific amount of money. It spoke of kidnapping and promised consequences, yet the child had never left the house. Hours passed as the police searched, and confusion spread. Then, deep in the basement, JonBenét's father made a discovery that shattered the illusion of the ransom plot forever. The child was there, hidden, silent. The crime scene, already compromised by movement and well-meaning hands, slipped into chaos. Suspicion turned inward. Family became the focus, and media scrutiny was relentless. Every word, every gesture, every Christmas photo was dissected in the public. But years later, DNA told a different story, one pointing away from the Ramseys and towards an unknown male, who to this day has never been identified. Nearly 3 decades later, the case remains open. Evidence still whispered, and somewhere, the truth about what happened on that Christmas night remains buried, waiting to be found. On December 25th, 2021, while much of the world slept glowing trees and quiet skies, something else was waking up. At 7:20 Eastern Time, a rocket rose silently from the jungles of French Guiana, carrying a machine humanity had spent decades building. Inside was the James Webb Space Telescope, folded like origami and fragile beyond imagination. One mistake, one jammed hinge, and the mission would die alone in space. Unlike any telescope before it, Webb was not meant to circle the Earth. It was sent far beyond the moon, nearly 1 million miles away, to a place of delicate gravitational balance known as L2, where sunlight, shadows, and a cold lock together in eternal tension. There, Webb would unfold, piece by piece, performing 100 of flawless maneuvers. Its golden mirrors were designed not to look at the stars as they are, but as they once were, to see back in time and peer into the darkness, just after the universe was born. When the first images finally arrived months later, they revealed something unsettling. The universe was older, deeper, and far more crowded than we ever expected. The deeper it looks, the more crowded darkness becomes, and the universe doesn't seem as empty anymore. Another day, another strange bite from history. Like, comment, and subscribe. Your next eerie dose is just a day away.